Hey, it's John Bollinger with Premier Guitar. We're at the Gibson factory in Nashville, Tennessee. We haven't been here since 2012. It's 2019 right now. I can't wait to see what these guys are up to.
Welcome to Gibson, USA.
Welcome everybody to our house. I can't wait to show you all the upgrades and everything we've done to reorganize this factory into a modern day manufacturing business, but also a place where we celebrate craftsmanship and we celebrate our artists. So let's just go inside.
All right, come on. Okay, so now we're on the factory floor and we're kind of showing the process from boot to bonnet. Jim, talk about how this all starts.
It actually starts at the rough mill, which is our plant across the parking lot next door. At the rough mill, we machine the body to this point. The top is book matched, laminated to the back, and then machined for the control cavities, the top contour, and the neck pocket. At this point, we receive them here at the body line. At the body line, we'll rim sand, channel for binding. After the binding's dry, then we sand the top and finish it out so it's ready for neck fit.
This is going to be one of our new Les Paul standards as it flows through.
Beautiful.
So John, here we're still in our body line, and as you can see now, it's been all smoothed out from when we receive it from the mill, and so you can see here a couple of our different shapes that will then go down the line. Here we're holding what's going to be one of the new Les Paul Juniors in tobacco bursts, the single dog ear P90. Jim is here holding what's going to be one of our new SG61s, also in the original collection. And then what you've got going on here is obviously the Explorer and the Flying V. In this case, this is going to be a V2, so it's going to be part of our modern collection. So here you see a couple of the different shapes.
All right.
Before we start going down the line, we're going to show you also some of our semi-hollow body line before we go into binding.
Great. It looks like back here, is this part of the
Firebird.
Oh, how cool.
Actually, a T-bird. That's a T-bird, looking at the control.
Oh, wow. You've got like, there's just stacks of bodies everywhere.
And they're all very iconic.
Yeah, totally.
Part of our history ever since the 50s of our solid bodies.
Oh yeah, back here.
This is going to be one of our new double cut tributes that are out there in both a junior single pickup configuration as well as a special.
Great.
Here we're at the ES body line. So all the ES guitars are assembled here. We have our rim presses that we've had and the top presses that we've had since the 1950s, since we introduced the ES styles. So right now we're looking at an ES 339. We have the core with the rims already glued up and kerfing. And then we have the top assembly, which will, at this station, be joined together along with the back. Here we have a 335 rim assembly, and here's the 335 as it's glued together before we trim the edges.
Now, were these made in Memphis before?
Yes, we just moved the ES line from Memphis back home to Nashville.
So it's all under one roof.
It just made sense.
Right.
And a lot of the folks that work here used to work on them before they moved to Memphis in 2003. So we're all very excited to have the ES models back here.
Right.
You know, with the decision, we needed to make a decision. We talked about it earlier when we did the prior video about we needed to move from the location we were at Memphis. And it was very clear in the discussion with JC that in the quest to be obsessed with quality, we needed to have everything in one room. And so it was a very easy decision from a business perspective to make, so that we can then lean into the future with that quality obsession. We can control everything under one roof.
Yeah. Great. All right, let's see some more.
What you can see here is the 3-ply maple that will be one of the sides for a 335, which is pressed in that machine, which is the same machine that pressed these same pieces of wood in Kalamazoo.
Wow.
So that's still working. We'll And then once we get this piece of wood out,
Then we'll trim it down and make multiple trims out of it.
Okay. So in 1959, the ES335 is made on that machine, same machine that 2019.
Exactly right.
Wow, that's
Yeah.
cool.
1958.
Wow, that's
That
great.
machine was pressing these starting in 1958 in Kalamazoo.
So how many 335s do you get out of this one pressing?
We're going to get typically 4. Here we're watching a Les Paul body as it's being bound. We take the binding strip and dip it through this solvent-based glue right here, and then we start the rope tying method. We first cinch it around the waist and then wipe off the excess, and then continue to wrap the body with that canvas rope. There's a specific sequence that this has to be done in to ensure that we have proper tension around the body so we have no gapping. And it takes typically 2 months to train one of these craftsmen how to do this properly. And when you see him go, he makes it look easy, but it's highly, highly skilled. And what's crazy is every wrap is in an exact sequence.
Wow.
After we're done, we'll kind of look at the other guitars already done, and it looks like a big messy spider web array of binding rope wrapped around the guitar. But if you look close, every wrap is in the exact same sequence. It's just crazy.
It never occurred to me that binding was that much work.
Oh,
Right?
it's a skill in itself.
And it's just an aesthetic thing, right? I mean,
Right. Back in the old days, with the acoustics, it was kind of a protective, bumper more or less around the rim.
Sure.
But with electrics, it's like you say, it's more aesthetic, but it's still one of our signatures.
Totally.
So we have to make sure that the binding, is wrapped appropriately, no gaps. Any gaps or seams will be highlighted once it goes through finishing.
And with the custom, it's a double bind, right?
Yeah, it's multi-ply. So instead of a single ply binding, you have an outer single with multiple layers, and then you also have the same thing on the back. So that takes it up to another level.
Just more labor intensive.
Actually, yes, it is. It
Every
is.
little bit is more labor intensive.
In other factories, this is typically one of the higher reject departments, but with us it's our lowest because these craftsmen are so skilled. It's very rare to have any kind of mishaps or QC errors. And that's it. And you can see it's very, very quick. Typically between 3 and 3.5 minutes.
Wow.
It's mind-boggling.
That is mind-boggling.
So at this point, we have a neck as we would receive it from the rough mill. At the rough mill, it undergoes a carving process and a machining process to take it to this point. And you can see it's still large, what we need.
Accelerates the drying process.
Yeah. And at this NC process, we further machine it closer to where it needs to be.
As you can see,
We then join the fingerboard.
earlier,
After the fingerboard, then we do the final hand rolling.
So, at this point, it's like, say, a 1960 profile and a 1959 profile the same before they hand roll it? Or
No, it'll actually start out at the rough mill. We have different neck lengths for 50s or 60s because the difference in how thick they are will require us to insert the truss rod at a different depth.
Oh, okay.
So it really does start at the very beginning. And then we have separate programs to rough them in for a 50s neck or a 60s slim taper. And it gets it very close and very accurate, but they still have to be done by hand, and we'll see that here in a minute. So after the necks are rough carved, we then glue the fingerboard on in this station. So we'll apply wood glue, which is again our industrial type bond glue, apply it to the fingerboard, and then the fingerboard has locating pins that locate onto the neck, and then they're inserted in the clamp fixture, fingerboard down. Our clamping method is very unique to Gibson. It uses fire hose that's inflated with air. So the neck is inserted, and we hit the valve. That fire hose inflate with air behind the back of the neck, and it's very uniform clamping pressure.
Oh, so just an even distribution of pressure.
Even, exactly right. So there's no hot spots with individual clamps, and it's only one valve, and it's very quick and efficient.
Yeah, that totally makes sense.
Okay, John?
So now we're kind of where the bodies meet the necks.
That's exactly right. At this point, the necks are completed, the bodies are completed, and this is where they're matched up. We have an RFID under the fingerboard that we scan. We print out a card that has the serial number and the SKU for the guitar, and then we stamp it on the back of the headstock with the serial number and Made USA. That's what we're doing here. After that, the necks and the bodies are paired up, and then they're given to the neck fitters, which we'll see here in just a minute.
All right, Jim, so what's going on here?
Here we're neck fitting the neck to the body. So we have, in this case, a Les Paul Modern neck being fitted to the body. We have the mortise and tenon of the neck joint have to be chiseled. Even though we have NC machines, which are very, very precision machines that can hold incredibly close tolerances, wood can expand and contract. Sure. And we have, wood control, environmentally controlled kilns and processes to maintain that, but the true natural fact is wood can expand and contract. If the necks and bodies were made out of plastic or metal, we wouldn't have to do this. We could maintain that tolerance and just, glue them together. In this case, we intentionally machine the tenon of the neck to be a little bit larger than the mortise and body. So you have to fine fit it with a chisel at the very last minute. So right here, he just did the fitting with the chisel. Now he's checking it, and then he'll take the gauges and he'll verify the pitch, which is the height of the neck off the body, and then alignment. Once he verifies that it's the appropriate fit, then he'll apply the glue and then clamp it together. It's very important. We have a pitch window that we have to maintain. If it's too high, the body will, or the bridge will sit too high off the body and your pickups will be too high. If it's too low, you won't be able to lower your action. So it's very critical that you get that neck pitch set where it needs to be. Again, this is like binding and hand rolling of a neck shape. Neck fit is extremely, extremely critical. And, we put a lot of time into training our technicians, and it's highly skilled to say the least.
And what glue do you use to bind it?
It's basically an industrial version of tight bond wood glue. So it's for this glue, or for this process, this glue is perfect, and we've used it and developed it over many years. And just like any gluing application, the best glue is the most appropriate for that application. Right. So for wood, that's what you want to use. Binding that we just saw, we use a solvent-based glue that's a different composition, and for that application, that's what you want to use. So here, we apply the glue. He's going to clamp it up and then clean it up. And then clamp time is only a half hour. Half-hour clamp time is all that's required with the wood gluing because they're not undergoing full strength until the guitars are finished out and shorting up. So now, that facilitates, our schedule and speed through the plant.
So if there's a glitch on the set, can you start over and do it again?
Once it's set, then you would have to steam it off, and it's a lot more difficult and invasive to do.
Sure.
You can, and we do that when we have to, but we try not to.
Get it right the first time.
Yeah, because it is, it's a lot of heavy lifting. You don't want to have to do that.
Yeah.
So it's very important. So he'll take the toothbrush, water, and rag. He'll do all the cleaning of the glue, and you notice there's only one clamp.
Right.
So we have these clamps with the clamp call that we machine in-house, and if you use two clamps, you have a risk of putting a curvature on that fingerboard. So one clamp is all that's required, and then they sit on the clamp racks, and then they dry for a minimum of half hour, and then they can be unclamped, and then proceed through the rest of the process.
Okay.
He signs off, and there you have it. So at this point, this is the neck as we take it out of the glue clamp. And now we're going to have to sand all this in and do the final hand roll. That's what we're seeing here.
One of the things we were talking about earlier, John, that is very important to us in the way that we are we rebuild the company is that machines make great guitar parts, but people make great guitars. And that's what you're seeing here as you walk around and you see our guys doing all these things by hand.
We embrace technology as much as we can, and that allows us to free up employees to spend more time for those tasks that have to be done by hand.
Right.
And that's something that we will never change. That's part of the celebration of craftsmanship, and it's really the legacy that Orville left us.
Okay, Jim, what's the next step?
After the neck is glued to the body, we sand it smooth, and then at this point, we machine it for the pickup cavities, the bridge, and the tailpiece. Now what's different nowadays compared to the 50s is our NC technology. And NC are pneumatically controlled routing machines that are highly accurate. In the old days we used pin routers with templates, and one at a time they had to be routed, and then we next it. These days we next it, we load the body on the clamps, and the clamps self-center and everything is accurate. So then we machine afterwards to ensure we have perfect alignment. So things nowadays are just far more accurate than they were back in the old days.
Sure. I've got some 50s Les Pauls, and there's a little bit of variance.
Sure. And if you look on those old guitars, the saddles were never pre-notched. And that was because they knew there was that variant.
Sure.
So they'd notch them when they got into final assembly.
Oh.
Now we can pre-notch them because we know everything's going to be on center.
It's going to, so everyone's absolutely consistent. Okay, that makes sense. Because it is funny, there's a certain arbitrariness to the 50s.
That's right. And you know, we all love the vintage guitars.
God.
And you know, our job nowadays is to capture the best of the old vintage guitars and replicate them more accurately.
Right.
There's just so many more fans that want those old guitars.
Right.
So when we do a guitar, we have to respect our tradition, but then make them the best we can.
Yeah, with
using
accuracy.
today's technology and accuracy.
Right.
So, and again, with NC machines, they do multiple guitars. The guy loads it up, and he's in the safety zone. He turns the button on, and it does its thing. In the old days, you had one guy with under a pin router.
Right.
Very, very dangerous. I knew a lot of old timers that didn't have all those fingers.
Yeah. Not great for your guitar playing.
Right. So today, it's not only accuracy and consistency, but safety for the employees.
Sure.
And then that.
Right. So there they are, lined up, and he's cutting those 4 Explorers. Wow.
You see, we have multiple tools on the machine, and depending on at the stage in the operation, we'll swap cutters. Some of them are routers, some of them are drills. Sometimes we'll use routers. Instead of using a drill bit, we'll interpolate a hole. So the router, the whole side of the router is programmed to run around in a circle, interpolating the hole. So you get more accurate and longer life out of the cutter.
All right, so Jim, where are we now?
We're in the plex room. In the plex room, we level and profile the fret wire and also slot the fingerboard nut. This used to be done by hand here, but with the advent of the plex machines, it's a lot more accurate and computer controlled and a lot more consistent than humans. Humans can do this. I take great pride in my fret work, but if I had to do this all day long, I couldn't keep up with these machines. The machines are just accurate and consistent. They take all the guesswork out of it.
Yeah.
They're a sizable investment. We have 8 of them in this room. If it's a Gibson branded instrument, they all go through Plex, whether they're at USA, Custom, or Montana or Acoustics. So all of our guitars go through that process, and it just ensures that the player has the best possible level and playing experience.
Yeah,
And getting your guitar plucked, I mean, you can get any guitar plucked at, you know, a few different places around the world, only a few, like Joe Glazer and that upgrade alone is such a huge expense.
Typically a few $100s,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
They have every guitar that we do has that.
Yeah, I think mine, I had one done once, I think it was like $300 or something
Wow,
like that.
yeah.
It's a lot.
So-
But it's funny, you know, Joe Glazer, he was talking about like the old school, like sawdust on the floor kind of environment. He said there's a romanticizing about that. But the fact is, machines are just more accurate, and you're going to get a better instrument that way. And so it's so cool that you've got you're utilizing the latest technology, but have the hands-on, as Cesar was saying, hands-on as well.
You have to embrace the technology. You have to accept that it's just not only making a better guitar, but it's making a more affordable guitar.
Right.
So that's why we can have our prices such that right now, you know, all our historic models, the prices for this year were determined off of inflation-adjusted 1960 catalog prices.
Huh.
And we're able to do that because of all this technology.
That's cool.
So it's a very cool thing. When the pluck process starts, a plunger plunges just like my finger, and it passes about 6 to 8 times typically across the surface of the fingerboard like so. And every time it hits a piece of fret, it's moving up and down. And it records that topography, and after it's finished, then it comes back one by one, and it levels and profiles that fret wire. It may take 1,000th off of this side, maybe 3 in the center, and maybe 4,000ths here. Here it may skip this side and take 2 off the center and so forth. And it retains all that digital information to finish off that fretboard surface. And then each machine, we have right now programmed to retain 2 weeks worth of records. So it's very, very cool.
Okay, so like a Les Paul Custom has different frets than say a Les Paul Standard.
Sure.
Do you have to program that in ahead of time?
Yeah, we have different programs for different models and then different fixtures. So every model has its own fixture to properly load it into the machine and apply string tension. And then we have separate programs depending on the width of the neck, the radius of the fingerboard. We can even do compound radius fingerboards on the Plex, which go from 10 to 16.
And before that was just in a luthier's head, right? Wow.
Yeah, so because it was human, it was subject to a lot of variation
Right.
and error, quite frankly.
Yeah.
So now we can ensure that technology is the best possible playability you can get out of the guitar.
Right.
And then lastly, we come back and we slot the fingerboard nut. So again, that's located off of the neck, so we ensure the spacing is accurate, and then we profile the top surface down.
And is that done here as
That's
well?
done here at the very end of the Plex stage. It also does that. So then when they go into final assembly, then the final adjusters will then take it to that very final height and then polish the top surface of the nut. So again, you're removing a lot of that margin of error and using technology as much as you can to ensure the best possible guitar.
I've messed up a lot of nuts trying to find
thing to do.
I've destroyed a lot of them. Yeah.
It's easy to make mistakes.
Yeah. Sure.
It's very difficult to do what it needs to be done, especially when you're doing the volume of guitars that we're doing.
Right, and they're not forgiving too. Once they're done.
Yeah, then it's start all over.
Yeah.
So yeah, it is very, very critical. And again, that nut, you know, if it's not cut exactly right, it'll affect everything throughout
right.
the fretboard. So, yeah, again, technology working for you.
All right. Cool.
John, here we're in color prep. In color prep, guitars get the final sanding and wood filling before they go into finishing. So it's preparing that wood surface, and then the wood filler is also adding a staining and grain highlighting. Here, we can look at a few guitars. This would be a Les Paul, and the wood filler is done on the mahogany. Mahogany is an open grain wood. And so on open grain wood, when you go to lacquer it, it'll just soak into the wood, and it'll get grainy. Maple is a closed grain wood, you don't have to wood fill that. So we'll wood fill the mahogany, and then on swamp ash and some other species like that, this would be one that's completed. In this case, this is the Les Paul Jr., so we're using a walnut wood filler, and not only only will it pack the pores to grain fill, but it also adds the staining and highlighting. So now the pores will be, you know, that walnut dark, and it adds that walnut tone to the body.
Exactly what we're doing now.
Also on the neck too. So not only is it grain filling for a smoother lacquer finish, but also that highlighting the grain itself. After they dry, which is typically 8 hours, then they're ready to go into finishing.
Cool, let's go. Okay, so judging from the smell of things, we are now in the lacquer room, right?
That's right, the true smell of nitrocellulose lacquer. The smell of victory.
Yeah. You know, Gibson, I mean, there's such a big deal about nitro, but you guys have always been a nitro company.
Yeah, in the very, very early days, you know, with Whirlpool, they were still using varnish.
Sure.
But as, you know, nitro was invented and adopted in manufacturing and automotive and furniture, then we naturally adopted it. And it's been considered the finest instrument finish. It has a great clarity and protection, but at the same time not too thick. A lot of modern finishes like polyurethanes and polyesters can kind of encapsulate the guitar, and even on a solid body, it will kind of, you know, hamper the vibration and resonance of that guitar. And the clarity isn't there. And for sunburst and wood tones, that's very, very important.
So the nitro isolation into what's going on with everything we do with the wood and the paint, it's only around 7%, whereas with poly, that's a full 100% loss. So it's a very breathable material. That's why it ages the way it ages. It changes color with UV light.
Right.
That's the cool factor too, right?
Yeah,
Unless, of course,
yeah, I
you
love
lie
that.
about it for your spouse or something.
So here we're holding, giving you a sneak peek. Shouldn't be doing this. This is going to be, as it goes down the line, as you can see here from the inlay, the Chris Cornell signature tribute guitar that we're doing only 250 of, which is on the basis of the one that he designed entirely himself. The satin olive finish with the big feet, the low tone pickup, the clear knob. That was entirely his design. And what we're doing to pay tribute to him is also putting his signature in the inlay.
Now, I suspect it's going to be a really popular guitar. How can we only make them 250 of them?
Yeah, it's going to be, we know already from the way that we're managing allocations forward that it's multiple times oversubscribed.
Yeah.
But that's the beauty of it from a collector's perspective is
Right.
that it's a limited run. They're only going to be 250, and it's going to be something that preserves and then grows in value.
Cool.
So we might catch one down the line as we go towards final assembly, and if there's one, I'll try to find one to show you what it looks like.
Great. Okay, let's go down the line.
So now we're actually, this is a shooting booth, right?
That's correct. Now we have one of our finest artists getting ready to spray a sunburst on a Les Paul. She's shooting the cherry on back. As we said earlier, everything is true nitrocellulose lacquer. The masking tape around the rim is so when she's spraying the cherry, it doesn't contaminate the center of the body where it will then be, you know, yellow or amber. Wow. So now she removes that. Now she's going to apply that amber once she cleans it with the dust rag, tack rag. There she goes. And the sunburst is just one of our signatures. It's one of those things that people take for granted, but they forget that Gibson actually invented the sunburst.
So every burst really is different. I
It
mean,
really is. You have to have skilled artists actually applying the burst. And not only is it a matter of following that perimeter of the guitar body, but every piece of wood can be a little bit different. So you may have a maple top that's a little bit lighter or darker than the next one, And they have to know to make that judgment call. If this one's unusually dark, they have to kind of pull back and speed it up as they're applying the burst. Or if it's unusually light, they may have to slow it down and kind of, lean in a little bit to achieve the same tone. Now she's going to finish off the cherry on the back of the neck. And after she's finished with that, at the end, she'll give it a coat of clear lacquer, and that will protect the finish when it goes through the next inspection stage, and then also allow her to see what the sunburst actually looks like.
I'm amazed how quick all this is. I mean,
Oh yeah, it's only just a few minutes. And that final lacquer coat that she's doing will allow her to see how that color is applied. And if needed, she can come back and do a little bit more on the bursting, but generally, they're pretty much first timers.
Wow, it's amazing how that color really pops after that final lacquer.
Yeah, it just lets them see what it is. After that then, it will go to scraping on bound guitars, and they'll scrape all the binding. So you can see there, they don't mask over the binding. They just spray the cherry right over it because you can't effectively mask it accurately enough to avoid that scraping. So what's the point of masking it at all? So once it's dry, then it will go to scraping, inspection, and then the clear top coat. Okay, here we are in scraping, and you can also see up above us, there's guitars on a carousel that are drying after the clear top coat. So heat rises, so the heat, accelerates that drying process, and then it frees up floor space.
Oh.
So that's kind of an interesting process. Right. But here in scraping, as you can see, like I said earlier, when they spray the burst, they just go ahead and spray over the binding. And we have a variety of all these different scraping blades that they actually grind and shape and sharpen for their particular requirements. So each of the scrapers will cut and shape the blades and sharpen them as they're working. And they may have certain blades that they like for this area of the guitar, or maybe inside a cutaway, different sizes and shapes. So yeah, we can't brag enough about the scraping because again, the binding and scraping details kind of defines Gibson and what we're known for.
Sure.
All right, John, here we're at silk screening. In silk screening, we're applying the silk screen artwork to the peg head of the guitars. Interesting to note that in the 70s, during the Norland era, they went to a decal. But with all the vintage awareness by the late 70s, we got called out. People would notice the little halo around the decal, and so we went back to the silk screening, and the silk screening is better on any account. It just looks better, it's more historic, it's actually easier and quicker and cheaper to apply. I don't know why someone decided that a decal was better. Wow. And as you can see, it's very quick, and there's no halo of a decal, and it's historically accurate.
Wow. That is shockingly quick.
Yeah. You can't apply a water slide decal that quick.